Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, I'm excited. We've got Gian Pazzia on the show. So Gian is the founder of KBKG, which helps companies, real estate owners, and CPAs unlock proven tax strategies and incentives created by Congress so that they can invest into growth. He's been doing this for over 25 years. He started his career at the big four accounting firms, not as a CPA, but as a structural engineer. So for me, that's exciting. I do inspections. We have an inspection business here. And so I'm used to dealing with businesses or with the physical components of due diligence and all that kind of good stuff. So don't always run into a lot of people who kind of handle that part of the business. But he's become a recognized leader in the cost segregation field, served as former president of the American Society of Cost Segregation Professionals, and sitting on their board of directors for over a decade. So we're excited to have him on the show. He's been published over 20 times in major journals, and he co-founded KBKG, the national leader in cost segregation studies. And they've got offices all over the country, guys. So wherever market that you're in, I know that they can help you out. So Gian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Steve. Excited to be here. And thank you for the kind introduction.
No, I appreciate you jumping on. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on and kind of share, hey, what state of the industry, state of what's going on with taxes and how that can, how powerful it can be for investors. But kind of before we dive into some of that, how did you get started in the business? How did you get into the exciting world of cost segregation studies?
The exciting world of going into buildings and doing those inspections, like you mentioned there. Yeah, no, I fell into it like a lot of people did with their careers. When I was in college, I went to Purdue as a structural engineer, studied that, and somewhere before I graduated, I realized I don't want to be stuck in an office behind a screen trying to design buildings, or at least the steel components of the buildings. And I ended up getting that degree and found a job with Arthur Andersen out of school. They were one of the largest and most prestigious accounting firms in the world back then. And they were looking for structural or engineers at the time to do cost segregation for these large clients of theirs, like the casinos that you know of in Las Vegas. We were doing these huge manufacturing facilities for the big name pharmaceutical companies, and doing a lot of those projects, moving to another big four, and then coming out to California and starting KBKG really early on before cost segregation was super popular. And back then you would Google cost segregation and there was only a couple companies that popped up, and we were one of them. And now as it's an extremely tight space, but that's kind of my story. That's how we founded KBKG, and we've grown across the country. And along the way, I started to invest in real estate myself. Early on, my dad invested in real estate. He was definitely more of the saver, more of the kind of guy that would invest. If you read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he had those core principles of saving and investing. And that really kind of helped me get a head start with my real estate journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love seeing that. I'm a man of faith. And so anytime I hear a passage in the Bible talking about, hey, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children. And it's like, I always think, okay, well, it's easy to think, an inheritance. Okay, it's just financial, but an inheritance goes beyond that. A lot of times it's the entrepreneur, the vitality that it needs for that, the boldness that it needs for that. Because so many people, you and I both know, it's like, okay, they can get stuck into a W-2. Hey, you were working for one of the big four companies. Very easy for you to just stay there, right? Versus stepping out and saying, hey, I'm actually going to go start my own business. And a lot of people aren't wired that way. And so that's awesome that you saw that from your dad, at least for him to say, okay, well, hey, look, we're going to go invest. Like, we're going to go do some things outside of the norm for me in our space. And I'm sure for you too. Like, that's just normal now. But I realize that for a lot of people, it's not. So just as an encouragement to our listeners, hey, don't be afraid to step out. I get it if your coworkers aren't investing in real estate, but you're listening to the right show, listening to shows like this, getting in touch with people like Gian, like, okay, like we can definitely point you in the right direction. So no, that's awesome. I love seeing that. And so that's great. And then, yeah, like I said, starting out on your journey as a business owner, you guys have been in business since 99, quite a while. And we were talking a little bit off camera about this. It's like, okay, well, I love seeing that you've been through some market cycles, what kind of changes have you seen in the business over the last, gosh, over 26 years now, right? We're almost into the new year,
Yeah.
but it's a long time being in the business. I'm sure you've seen some changes in the industry, both from the cost seg standpoint and the technology and
Yeah.
just the market as a whole. Can you share some insights
Yeah,
there?
yeah. Look, if we're talking about cost segregation, I mentioned that there wasn't a lot of companies back in the early 2000s that were doing this stuff, and we were still trying to convince people that it wasn't a scam. They thought it was too good to be true, right? And here I am coming from this big, huge company working with these massive conglomerates and not realizing that it was so new to a lot of people, and it was really impacting them, the savings. When you're working for a big public company and you save them 10 million bucks, it's like, okay, great, the tax director shakes your hands and says thanks. But when you save the owner of a business or the owner of a piece of real estate, and you save them $100,000 in income taxes, they're basically naming their kid after you. But they're just super grateful. And that's been one of the coolest things about being in this business, because it is real. It is part of the tax code. And as far as other changes, it's gotten super competitive, like any industry. The barriers to entry to become a cost segregation consultant. Look, anyone that puts in the time and really studies and figures out how to do it can do it. And we've just been fortunate to be in it the longest with a very good team that it's invested significantly in technology, like you said, to make us super efficient. We've also early on realized that we're not going to be able to serve clients all over the country from one location. We're headquartered here in California. And so we made a conscious effort to build brick and mortar offices with engineers in many states across the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so, yeah, there was 9/11. It was the first kind of, you can call that a big issue. Real estate still did well, kind of 2000, early 2000s through 2006. Then there was the great financial crisis. Transaction volume, crashed, of course, and that really impacted our business, which was highly correlated to commercial real estate transactions. But at the time, one of the things that we started doing is diversifying into other areas. And right around the same time, 2008, President Obama put into place some new tax legislation for energy incentives. So we started getting into, actually, was it President Obama or was it Bush? I can't remember. It was right around that time. But there was some new tax legislation related to energy efficiency. We started going after clients that could benefit from those incentives, and we started doing really well there. And that began kind of our diversification into other service areas as well. Yeah, we all know the cycle we're in right now. 2023, 22-ish was kind of the high point. And I hope the worst is behind us now. And it feels like, at least from my vantage point, Steve, I'm seeing transaction volume pick up fairly significantly. And it could be a few different things happening. One, interest rates are starting to come down. People are starting to see that trend. And then also this big, beautiful bill, which brought back 100% bonus depreciation. I think that, especially towards the end of 2025, is driving some interest in closing some deals before the end of the year for tax benefits. So that's what I've seen over the last 25 years.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And the cool thing is too, is like you starting off working for those huge companies too, like it kind of gives you a different perspective. I feel like that, I think that's awesome as you were sharing that about, hey, you guys were working for these massive companies that you're talking about dealing with the casinos and all that kind of stuff. And I love that that is the same strategy that benefits them also benefits the individual. It's like, wow, that makes it tangible. It's not just like some pie in the sky thing. Oh, well, only those guys can do that. It's like, no, actually, our company, we can bring that to you. Like this is incredibly relevant and can put a jetpack on your investing strategy and career. So I love that you could do that. But also too, starting off with those larger companies help you to like, hey, you're level setting. It's like, of course, we're going to go after big clients. It's all we've ever worked with. And then of course, like that can filter down to helping out the residential and the individual investor as well. So that's super cool part of your story. And then we're speaking a little bit about this I just love talking to people who've been around for a couple of decades in real estate specifically, because again, guys, the sky's not falling. The market's not going to stay like this forever. I agree with you. I'm hoping the worst is behind us at this point. I've also seen that where some transactional volume has picked up. I think we're probably still due for a little bit of rockiness just because of uncertainty in the marketplace. But at this point, obviously, of course, we're seeing some distress from sellers and prolonged periods of the economy kind of being soft. So that's obviously clearing up some inventory in some different spaces too. But love that, hey, you pivoted. And then again, this is the importance, I think, of being an entrepreneur, is being nimble. Like, okay, hey, we understand this is not working anymore. We're going to need to pivot our business model a little bit, our strategy, and let's go hit up this, right? Where you guys talked about the energy sector and kind of going after some of those clients. So are you seeing anything like that now on the horizon, or is it more just with the big, beautiful bill, kind of a pivot back towards, hey, 100% bonus depreciation, cool. Let's make sure that that's available to the clients.
Yeah. Look, in the tax world, it's always changing.
Right.
So there's always a new bill every 4 to 7 years that kind of rocks the boat. But this last one, they repealed a lot of those energy incentives that were in place in 2008. So having to be nimble, like you said, and diversify even more. So yeah, we're currently looking at different ways to make sure our team can stay utilized as some of those green incentives are phasing out, unfortunately. But let me ask you, Steve, how well do you think your listeners really understand what cost seg is and how it impacts them? Because I know we haven't talked about that. I'm wondering if that's something we should cover there.
Yeah, it's easy for me to think, okay, well, everybody understands this. And I know that's your world, and obviously it's super important in ours too. And so you're an investor too. So if you're listening in and we've been kind of talking past you a little bit, so apologies for that. You can fast forward to this and rewind to the other stuff beforehand. But yeah, why don't you give us a breakdown? What exactly is cost segregation studies? Is it only for the casinos? Obviously not.
Right.
Kind of give me a little bit of a basic breakdown and help our listeners to understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, so cost segregation is a way for real estate investors to pay less in taxes by speeding up how fast they're going to write off parts of their building. Okay. And so normally the tax law says that you get to write off your building through depreciation over 27 or 39 years, depending on the type of building. Okay. But not everything in the building lasts that long. Okay. And that's the premise for which the tax rules kind of differentiate different components. Okay. Now, it's not quite as simple as how long a component lasts, and that dictates how it's treated. But I'm just giving you kind of a general understanding. Okay. So not everything in the building lasts super long. So the things like the vinyl flooring or the cabinetry or appliances or maybe the parking lot asphalt paving, all these things can be written off much quicker. And so a cost segregation study breaks the building down into all its different components so that you can write off a lot of those components in the first year now with the way the tax law is written. And so really you're just taking these deductions right away instead of spreading them out, right? Take it as much as you can, as early as you can. And so let me kind of break it down with some numbers here to just put it into perspective. Let's say you buy a rental home, a single family rental home. Let's say you paid $300,000 for it. Step one is you have to figure out how much the land is worth and how much the building is worth, because the land, you don't get to write that off. Okay. So let's just say that the land in my example is $30,000. Now we have $270,000, which is the building, single family rental home, and you're supposed to depreciate that over 27 years. So you get to take a $10,000 deduction each year for 27 years. Okay, without a cost seg. Now, with the cost seg, we can come in and we can find as much as, let's say, 25% of that 270 can be written off right away. So now we're talking about $54,000 income tax deductions. Okay, so that delta, you just increase your income tax deductions by $44,000. So you can wipe out income. Now, it depends everybody's income tax situation is different, and there's issues with passive investors and non-passive real estate professionals. But in general, you're creating these deductions, and if you can use those deductions, it's a slam dunk.
Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, yeah. And to Gian's point, absolutely. And none of this, of course, we're just two guys talking on the internet. So this is tax and legal advice. Hey, you guys, of course, refer to your CPAs and your tax planning professionals there, but it is an incredibly powerful strategy for sure. And to Gian's point there, your personal situation, of course, will dictate exactly how much of this you can apply. Because a lot of it, it's like, okay, yeah, you were mentioning there, like, hey, you're a passive investor, are you an active investor? How much of this can you actually throw at, let's say, your income? But it can be incredibly powerful if you're able to utilize the strategy. It's powerful no matter what, but for certain individuals, it can be, there's ways that you can kind of make sure that you're taking full advantage of what this allows for you. Now, Gian, a quick question. So obviously, well, for one, I actually was thinking about this whenever you were speaking about it. So for the individual components that they're going to depreciate, how often do they make actually updates to that? Like, have they the like to that schedule where it's like,
Yeah.
have you seen changes to that? Like, this is just a genuine question. Like,
Well, no, in terms of what you can reclassify, that really doesn't change. Sometimes they change. Yeah, the biggest change that keeps happening is how much bonus depreciation you get on it.
right, yeah, right.
And that's come and gone like, I don't know, 4 times over the last 20 years. And right now it's permanent, but who knows what happens during the next administration. But yeah, for the most part, it's these rules have been set for quite a while. And yeah, there's not quite as much gray area anymore.
Yeah, there's probably not a ton of incentive, I would imagine, to change a bunch of that. It's like, okay, well, hey, technology, material science has increased, and now roofs last 100 years versus whatever, or different components, right? Like HVAC or
Right.
I see them last shorter, but as even though they should last longer. But anyways, so just curious about that. And then now, I'm a commercial investor. You've obviously helped a lot of commercial investors. How does this work if I'm a long-term rental investor, right? And I'm buying $150,000 houses in the Midwest somewhere, does this work for me? Or do I have to be, hey, I'm like Gian, I'm like you and I'm like Steve. We live in California. You live in California. I live in Hawaii. We're in very high cost markets. Median sales price here is $1 million. Does it only work in markets like that where it's like, okay, well, hey, you guys are buying $1 million properties or multi-million-dollar properties, let's say, for the commercial. Can anybody use this? Like, who's this the right fit for?
Yeah, no. So anyone can use it. I will start by saying that the people that benefit the most are going to be real estate professionals. Okay. And the way that they're defined in the tax code, there's a special category for them. And to be considered a real estate professional, you have to have worked 750 hours in real estate. You can't spend more than half of your time doing anything else. Those are the 2 big criteria. And if you meet that criteria, then any income that you have from any of your properties, you can use these depreciation losses from any other real estate to offset that. Okay. Now, if you're a passive investor, okay, and let's say you're a software engineer and you're making $300,000 W-2 income, and you go buy a rental property, let's say you do a cost seg study on the rental property and you're creating all these losses. So you create $50,000 of losses. You can't use those losses against your software income. Okay. That's kind of where the limit is. But in that situation, if let's say you keep buying rental properties, eventually after a certain time, they're going to start to spit off taxable income. Okay. And when they start spitting off taxable income, that's where you can start managing your depreciation. And if you manage it well, you can literally just never pay tax on any of that income from your real estate. It's very easy to do if you manage it. So that's the general rule. Okay. But here I'm going to talk about a couple of strategies kind of to manage that, to deal with those rules. Number one, if you are a software engineer making $300,000 and your spouse is considered a real estate professional and you file a joint tax return, you can net all of the activity together. So let's say going back, same example, software engineer, let's say you have 10 single family home properties that you've invested in. Your wife manages those properties, or your husband. One of the spouses manages the properties, and they're considered a real estate professional. Now, if you do cost seg on all that real estate, okay, and you create a bunch of losses, like you might 10 properties, you might be able to create $1 million of losses. Who knows what the number is, but it could be big. And now you're filing a joint tax return. You can now use those losses against your W-2 income. So you could literally maybe pay zero tax because you're wiping out taxable income from your W-2 wages. So that's a tax strategy that I think a lot of people don't hear about from their CPAs, but it's a legit area of the tax code. Yeah, I have clients that once they found that out, they asked their spouse to retire from whatever job they were doing and start managing real estate. And it's a very viable strategy to consider.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I said, I know it's super powerful. It can be like that in the right situations because the amount, like I said, this is where I was saying, like, this can put a jet booster on your investing because, okay, instead of you having to have this huge tax liability, great, you can get, now you have capital to go buy more property, which then kind of helps you to get things moving that much faster. So like to Gian's point, like it can be incredibly powerful or that, like maybe this just opens up lifestyle options for you where, hey, you can retire your partner and okay, hey, you just focus on the real estate. I'm going to continue working the W-2. We're just going to pair this together. Now you're able to grow the portfolio. Now you're able to take and reap all the tax benefits. So it just opens up all kinds of doors, guys. And so just being aware of the strategy, right? Like this is so vital.
Yeah. And you're right. It is a lifestyle thing. And that person I was referring to was actually me and my wife. I made my wife quit, or I didn't make her. Look, we came to that decision together, but a stressful job to start managing properties where she's working half the time, still putting in the required 750 or more hours. And it's a lifestyle thing. She's spending more time with the kids and able to build wealth the way you guys preach and the way other people are doing it.
Yeah, no, and it's amazing. And the cool thing is that sometimes they can kind of get a bad rap where it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean you don't pay taxes? And it's like, well, look, the government is going to incentivize things that they can't do or they want to encourage people to do. So this encourages investors to go out and provide more value in the marketplace through running and operating and managing properties, whatever that looks like. Because the cost segregation, I know, works in different asset types, and it's not all just single family rentals. It's not all just commercial multifamily. It's like that, like you were saying, it's casinos and it's other business types. So we can go reinvest that capital and go acquire more assets. We can go bring more value to the marketplace. And you get rewarded for doing that by following the tax strategy. You're just using the tax code. It's already there. It's written into the law. So it's really just an education piece, like Gian's saying. You just need to be aware that that's available to you. And it can open up so many doors, guys. So if you haven't ever looked into this before for your personal portfolio, schedule a call. Reach out to Gian and his team. They're glad to answer questions and provide resources for you guys to look and explore. Hey, is this a viable fit for me in my business? Right. And so that's very powerful. And then you guys have also developed, obviously technology is a huge deal. Now, I don't think any business can really survive without some elements of technology. You guys created a tool as well. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. We've been creating a cost segregation software that we actually use for our own studies. So like when I say our own, we do probably 3,000 studies a year for taxpayers buying properties anywhere from $2 million buildings up to $200 million buildings. And what we did is, we created this software internally to help us be super efficient in what we do. But then we created software that is client facing so that smaller property owners could actually do cost segregation studies themselves. And so it's called costsegregation.com. Okay. That's the software. That's where it's found. And
it's simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. And it works it starts at $500, right? And it allows users to do cost segregation studies on their smaller properties. So you can literally do a single family rental home like the one I talked about earlier, where you're buying it for a couple $100,000. Yeah. And it now makes sense to accelerate the deductions on a $200,000 or $300,000 purchase. Like if you can pay $500 and then get, what I said earlier, a $50,000 deduction in year one, you're going to do that all day as long as you can use those deductions. And so, yeah, the software, it works for residential and commercial properties. It it the caveat or the limit is it has to have a depreciable basis of 1.5 million or less. Okay, and so if you bought a property for 1.8 million, you might still be able to use it if the land value is, let's say, 400,000, because now your depreciable tax basis, not including land, is only 1.4 million. So anyway, I would encourage you to check it out. You can actually go in there. It has AI. If you put the address in, it sucks in all the publicly available information. You go through and you update the fields that you need to. It takes about 15 minutes. You go through the process before you even pay anything. At the end of 15 minutes, you'll see how much the deductions are before you pay. So it's no risk to try it, to go in there, create an account, put the info in, see where it lands. If you like the number, you can pay and get your report that you would then hand to your tax preparer, who would then report it on your tax return for you.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what a very cool way to introduce people to the strategy. And like, that's awesome. They can already see, hey, what kind of impact could this make? Right now, obviously, you need a few more pieces there, like, hey, to your personal tax strategy and all that kind of stuff. But I think even just being able to see what they could do with their individual property. Oh man, that's so powerful, because you start to, wow, okay, then if you're playing Monopoly, right, you just start to see, you can start stacking these little chips. It can really add up fast, guys. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Look, cost seg is, to me, it's the absolute most powerful tax strategy for anyone in real estate. And it is the reason why President Trump never wanted to show his tax returns, because he doesn't pay tax, or he pays very little tax, and it's all because of depreciation. It can be managed. I have clients that they do very detailed tax projections. They know where they're going to end up. Maybe they're selling a property this year. There's going to be a big gain. They will go out and buy another property, and just to get that depreciation deductions, you can pretty much figure it out based off of the type of property and the amount you're spending to get to where you need to be. But anyway, I did want to mention that there is a discount code I'm going to give to your listeners. So just want to make sure I throw that out there so they hang on till the end to get the discount code to use that software.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for that, Gian. Yeah. Like I said, guys, I would definitely check it out. We'll make sure that we put all that in the show notes so you guys can go on the site, check it out, kind of see if that's going to work for your specific situation, your property. I can almost, again, no guarantees in real estate investing, but it's like, I'm pretty positive it's going to be beneficial to you. And if nothing else, like the fact that you can go on there, you can log in, put in some info and see what it could potentially do for you in terms of savings, I think that's awesome. So yeah, we'll definitely make sure that we link that in the show notes. But yeah, this is a part of the show where we transition into what we call our fire round, just a little bit more rapid fire, brief Q&A. Is that something you're up for?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Awesome. All right. First question. You mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad earlier. Do you have a favorite book recommendation? And it doesn't have to be real estate. It doesn't have to be tax. It doesn't have to be any of that. Do you have a go-to book recommendation that you like to refer out to people?
I'm not the best reader, to be honest. I'm more of a podcast guy.
Yeah, sure.
And so for me, I listen to a lot of podcasts about AI lately. It's just been something I've been super obsessed with over the last few years. I'm looking at my phone right now because I wanted to find the name of this one podcast. Let's see here.
People tune in to listen to what the industry leaders listening, who they're listening to, who's in their ear. Yeah. Obviously, they're listening to us, but
this is called the Artificial Intelligence Academy, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, AI, huge deal right now. So much disruption, so many different industries, and so like I'm glad to see you guys are incorporating that into, of course, the software that you're offering to the clients as well. But yeah, guys, if you aren't finding a way to use it in your business, you need to do it like ASAP. The industry, so many different segments in the market are going to be impacted by this in the next 5-10 years. So, take advantage of anything that you can now to be able to get in front of it. But all right, very good. All right, next question. What would you consider your superpower to be, other than saving clients potentially millions of dollars?
For me, it's always been being able to kind of see having a vision. I have a critical eye, Steve, and sometimes it's good for me in my business because I can see things at the way I want them to look, and I can make things, whether it's in marketing or we're developing a product or I want things to be a certain way. I think that standard of excellence, it really helps push our team to a higher standard. I say that it's a pro and a con because if you ask my wife, she thinks I'm overly critical about things. So yeah, that's where it bites me.
Yeah, no, with great power comes great responsibility.
That's right.
No, very good. All right, next question. If you had a time machine and you could go back and visit 20-year-old Gian, what advice would you have for him?
Oh, good one. Let's see. Well, I think number one, even though my dad invested in real estate early on, like still early in my career, I was trying to build up enough equity. I did buy my condo when I was like 21. That was my first real estate purchase, but I didn't invest as an LP into real estate. And I kind of wish I started doing that earlier because of all the tax benefits and just starting that process earlier. Look, back then, like there was ups and downs in the cycle, but if you get in at the beginning of a cycle, it's like you can't, a lot of times you just can't lose. And so it's revisionist history looking back, but I do wish I started investing as an LP before. See, what I did is I waited till I had enough money to buy like bigger apartment buildings. And so now I own 7 apartment buildings, but along the way I could have bought in smaller properties to get in the investing game earlier.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, hindsight is 2020. Like the revisionist history there. Like no way we can always call, what's going to happen. You never feel that way in the moment, anyways. Even though like we all know, okay, hey, this is all cyclical. It's like, okay, if you were to take a few steps back, you can see, oh, okay, all right, I think we're here in the cycle. But again, when you're in the middle of it, it never feels that way. So, but key takeaway from that would be, yeah, start early, guys. If you're thinking about doing something, obviously you're educating yourself, but yeah, long term, if you're holding hard assets, if you're in the game, if you're in the business, if you're buying hard assets, if you put that on a long enough timeline, you win. So it's tough to go wrong there. So kudos to you for buying at 21. Oh my goodness, it took me forever. But yeah, that's awesome. And kudos to dad for showing you for normalizing that. Because again, I think, like I said, that's a big mindset piece, I think, for a lot of people. So very cool. All right. And then for a busy working professional, somebody who's trying to work towards financial freedom, what advice would you have for them?
It's hard. It's hard really building wealth when you're selling your time. And so that's the thing about real estate is you're appreciating assets that are providing that passive income. You look at people in the software business, they make a piece of software and it's a something that produces income over years, but doesn't necessarily require your time, as much time as just selling an hourly kind of consulting service. So for me, that's something that I think your listeners may appreciate.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. As I've gotten older, you realize that the time is more precious. You can't get it back. And so as soon as you can start leveraging up your time, your skill set to go beyond, okay, I'm trading literally my time, my life energy for income, the faster you can get to where you can leverage other people's resources or like that. Software engineer or somebody said it's a perfect example. It's like, hey, they're going to create a product, but they don't have to put in that same amount of energy and effort that went into it up front and they continue to profit off of it. Hey, the sooner you can get to things like that, great. And so, yeah, no, that's great advice. Well, Janet, if our audience wants to reach out to you or your team, what's the best way for them to do that? I know you mentioned the software tool earlier, but do you have socials or website or that kind of good stuff that we can point them to?
Yeah, for sure. Look, Gian Pazzia, there's only one Gian Pazzia in the world. And so you can Google me, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's really where I'm most active. And there's costsegregation.com. And there's also our other website, KBKG.com. And anyway, before I forget, I wanted to make sure I gave this promo code here for your listeners that want to try that software at costsegregation.com. So the promo code is all caps project 2025. So all caps PROJECT 2025, and they'll get a 10% discount for first time users.
So awesome. Well, now you guys don't have any excuse. Hey, we're recording this around the holiday time. So go give the gift to yourself, to your family. Go look to see what this can do for you. Because like I said, it can be an incredibly powerful tool to your overall investing strategy. And again, the idea is that you get to buy back your time. So if it's powerful for your investing strategy, guess what? You're very likely working towards buying back more of your time. And so, yeah, go check that out. And we really appreciate, Gian, you for hopping on today, providing the listeners tons of value, and of course, for the discount on your software tool that you guys created. So, yeah, no, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. Thanks so much. And we'll look forward to circling back with you in the future. Hopefully, none of the 100% bonus depreciation ever goes away. That would be amazing. But I'd love to talk shop and see what's new in the industry at some point in the future. So thank you so much, Gian.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Look forward to being back.
Sounds good. Aloha. Thank you. All right, great conversation with Gian Pazzia, talking about cost segregation and how impactful it can be for your overall investing strategy. It really is a very powerful tool. Obviously, we've had prior guests, different guests on the show talking about that as well. But I love Gian's time in the industry, again, a background as a structural engineer and working for massive companies, talking about the big four accounting firms and whatnot, and how even their clients are using this. So if it's good enough for these guys buying $100 million plus businesses and structures, I think it can work for the individual investor. And I know, again, I've used it before too. So we use it on every deal that we buy. So very powerful. So make sure you guys are checking them out, costsegregation.com. Make sure you're using the promo code Project 2025 and see what that can do for you. Guys, if you're interested in investing with us, you want to learn more about our company and the things that we're buying, go to tricityequity.com to learn more. We also have a local meetup. We meet up every month. So some of you guys are already coming out to the meetups. We do them every month. It's a blast. Lots of great people that you can meet and connect with. Your net worth is your network, guys. So make sure that you're connecting wherever it is that you are listening in from, whether it's local here in Hawaii, or if you're on the mainland somewhere, there's a meetup happening somewhere. So make sure that you are plugging in somewhere locally. But of course, if you are in Honolulu, we'd love to meet you. Love to come introduce you to the group. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. If you guys are finding value in the show, we'd love to continue to grow the channel. So like and subscribe, share the episode. Guys, go take some action. We'll see you on the next one. Aloha.